If you're like me and you've lived in more than one place, like for instance, I lived in San Francisco, Portland, Oregon. I grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I went to college in Idaho. I've lived in a lot of places and experienced a lot of, different ways of living. When I moved to Richmond, Virginia, which is where I currently live now, I noticed a few things that I wish someone would have told me. So if you're thinking about moving here, my name's Liz. I happen to sell real estate here. I'd love to help you, but welcome to my channel. Let me tell you what those things are.
And it goes a little something like.
First off, if you're thinking about moving to Richmond or you want to know all things Richmond, go ahead, ring the bell, like, subscribe, write me a comment below so we can get to know each other. Feel free to click the link and reach out to me directly. I have people all the time that are thinking about moving here who just have some basic questions that I can easily answer for you, and I'd love to be a local resource for you. Let's get back to the things I wish I would have known before I moved here. Now, I moved here from Portland, Oregon area. I lived on the Washington side, but I sold real estate in both Washington and Oregon. So I spent a lot of my life driving from Washington to Oregon to Washington. And I sat in a lot of traffic. Because of the bridges in Portland and the bridges in San Francisco area, I was working on the East Bay, San Francisco side, but I lived on the west side. So again, lots of bridges, lots of traffic, lots of time in my car. I was so used to spending an hour, 2, 3 in my car that when I had the chance to move to Richmond, Virginia, and my husband and I found a house that was 30 minutes away from where my office was going to be, my brain was like, 30 minutes? That's it? This is amazing. Now that I've lived in Richmond a little bit, I'll have you know that when I tell people that I live 30 minutes from where my office currently is, they're like, that seems like a far away. Why'd you do that? It's actually amazing. 30 minutes in the car, chef's kiss. Because you can get some work done, you can kind of come down from the day. By the time you pull into your driveway, you're good to go. I will tell you there is a smidgen of traffic. Every time I make this video and I'm like, there's no traffic in Richmond, people are like, yes, there is. So let me tell you where the places are a little bit of traffic. One of them would be 95. Highway 95 runs north and south from, of course, New York City, Jersey, and coming right down through here. It runs all up and down the eastern United States. So it runs right through Richmond, right through the center of town. Now, when you're there, there's 95 and there's 64, another highway that runs the other direction, and that, can cause a little bit of traffic. I like to refer to 95 as a death trap. I do not like to drive on it, but if you are driving on it, that's where you're going to run into a little bit of traffic. Now, sometimes there are, what feels like there always is, construction on 95, and that's going to slow you down a little bit, so be aware that if there's going to be traffic, that's probably where it is. Another place is the bridges in Richmond. There's one. Richmond, of course, is right in the middle. There's highways that go around it. And on the west side of town, there's 288 is what the highway is. And when you go across the James River, there's a little bit of a slowdown if you're going north or south during rush hour. So that's another place you might want to just, heads up, there might be a little traffic there. So yes, there is a little traffic here, but compared to the other major cities that you may be coming from, it's like nothing. I recently had a client move from the Dallas, Texas area, and the two things that they love about living here is that there are trees here. They send me videos of their dogs in their backyard with the trees like once a week. It's adorable. And they love the trees, and they love the fact that there's very little traffic. They would tell me that they would leave their house to go to the mall on the weekends, and it would take them double the time that it needed to just because it was so crowded there and the highways are so crowded. And they just love that they can easily go places. It may take them 20 minutes to get somewhere, but it's because it's that far away, not because there's traffic. Another thing that those same clients that moved from Dallas have told me recently is that they love the pace of life that is here in Richmond. It is a slower pace of life compared to, again, they said Dallas, Texas. I compare it to California. So I've lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, also up towards Sacramento. I also lived in the Portland, Oregon area, and I've lived, of course, on the East Coast. When I moved here, it felt like not that I went back in time because it was like older or not quite as advanced. It was just the pace of people's life was easier. When people call me on the phone and they want to know what Richmond is like, I say it's an easy place to live. I don't feel like I'm always in a rush. I don't feel like I'm in a hurry. I create my own hustle in my own life, but I don't feel like the people around me are like, oh, I got to do this and that and this and that. It's not how it is. I recently visited some of my agents up in New York City area, and I was just amazed at the difference of the pace of life in Richmond, Virginia versus these bigger cities, other places. So if you want a place where you can maybe slow down a little bit, Richmond is going to be perfect for you. Let's talk about the weather. Again, I've lived all over the United States, and what I noticed about Richmond was, yes, we have all 4 seasons, but occasionally we get a little bit of weird weather, and the weird weather is occasionally we get some tornado weather, which you're like, tornadoes in Richmond, Virginia? That's weird. That's what I thought when the first warning came. We've lived here about 5 years, and I think we've had probably maybe 3 or 4 of them. And what happens is the weather is what the weather is and the change of seasons. And it kind of comes up the river, the James River, and Richmond happens to be right along there. And for whatever reason, it stirs up tornadoes. Are they major? Not really, but it's still something that you don't think of when you're thinking of Richmond, Virginia, there being a major thunderstorm or that turns into a tornado. So that surprised me. The second thing, of course, is the humidity in the summertime. If you're moving from somewhere where there's 0 humidity, you're going to get here and it's almost like your blood is different because you've been somewhere where there's no humidity versus somewhere where there is. I needed a whole year for my body to kind of acclimate to what the weather was, what the humidity is it hot, is it cold? So it did take me a little bit of time to kind of get used to me walking outside and it being like sticky hot. It's not Florida, right? It's not Arizona, but it is pretty hot here in the summer and there is humidity. So be aware of that. Is there snow? Well, last year there wasn't any, but the year before that there was a major ice/snowstorm that closed things for like 5 days. So there is a little bit of winter weather, but it hasn't been anything compared to other places I've lived, like Idaho, where it snows like literally for 6 months. Another thing that I noticed in Richmond was what to do in the evening, nighttime. When I moved from the major cities like Portland and San Francisco, you could do things all night. There's karaoke bars, there's dance clubs, you literally could stay up all night and have something to do. In Richmond, are there options of things to do later at night? Yes. It's just a smaller city, and the laws as far as when you can buy alcohol and when alcohol is served are just a little bit different compared to maybe other places with larger cities. So just something to keep in mind as far as can you go out at night? Yes. Are there places to go dancing? Yes. Are there comedy clubs? Yes. Can you get great food in Richmond? Yes. It's just the scale of what's available, maybe just a little different than what you're used to. And that, it surprised me just a little bit because I was used to like huge cities that had, for instance, in Portland, we used to go to the karaoke bar that was open, I felt like it was open all night. So not that you're going to be out all night, but just something to consider if you're planning like a major fun trip and you get here and you're like, why is there nothing to do at 2 a.m.? Because it's just maybe not that kind of city. So it surprised me when I moved here. So keep that in mind as well. Do I love living in Richmond, Virginia? I do. It's a great place to be. No matter if you're young or old or somewhere in the middle, it has things that many other places have as well, but just the scale may be a little smaller and it's just easier here. Depending on, where you live in the Richmond area, it's easier to get to town versus not. There's so much good food here. There's so many things to do on the weekend. There's so many festivals. There's so many breweries. It has everything that you're going to want in this world. It's just easier to get to those things. So you actually go. You actually do. You actually live the life that you're thinking of living, but you don't because it's just a hassle maybe where you're living. So if you're considering a move to Richmond, feel free to reach out to me. Again, ring the bell, like, subscribe, write a comment below if you've lived in Richmond and loved it, or if you lived here and hated it. I want to know. I want to have a conversation with you. Until next time, talk to you soon.